Okay, so in the previous videos, we actually developed a method to find the area of any area under any curve. Okay, so now if I give you any function, you should be able to actually develop the same using the same method. You should actually be able to find the area under its curve. Okay, so if I give you some function and some two boundaries, okay, so you should be able to find its area. Okay, so now in this video, let us just generalize the whole method, and obviously because it has taken us a long time to actually go through the whole process and find the area, and we can't do that every time we've been given a function. Okay, so let us develop a general a shortcut method. Okay, so some a shortcut method to actually and generalize the whole thing that we've done, so that we can do the whole process much more quickly. Okay, so now you might have a question as to why do we actually need to find the area under a curve? Well, that is useful in many places in physics, which will come to in some future video. Okay, so for now, let us just generalize the whole process. So whenever we were being given any function, let's say y equals, so this time I'll take y equals x cube. We had used another curve, right? In this whole process, we had used another curve, which was so let us stick to the original first. So we had dealt with this curve, right? And in this situation, we had used the curve y equals x cube by 3. We had used this curve to find the area under this curve, right? And so what was the relation between these two? So when we had differentiated this, we got this, which means this is the derivative of this, which also means this is the antiderivative of this. Okay, so whenever we have to find the area under the curve of some function, okay, we need to know the antiderivative of that function. Okay, so here in this case the antiderivative is this x cubed by 3. So we know this, and so this function is also known as the integral of this. Okay, and we actually call this an indefinite integral. Okay, so this function is the indefinite integral of this. So whenever we integrate, so the process of finding the area under the curve of any function, so finding the antiderivative is called integration. So whenever we integrate this, we actually find the antiderivative of this function. Okay, and this is also called the indefinite integral. Why indefinite integral? Okay, so integral, I hope you know why we call it integral. Why the whole process is called integration is because what we do is actually we are integrating the whole area, right? Dividing into many rectangles, triangles, and then integrating all of them together. So first, okay, so yeah, so we what we're actually doing is we were using this curve, and what we're actually doing is we were applying. So if I had to find the area from, let's say, x equals 1 to x equals 2, right? So we need to know two limits, right? We can't, so we had some curve. If you have some curve, we can't find the area under this curve because that is infinite. Okay, we need to know two limits. So let's say this and this, we have to have two limits so as to get a closed figure whose area we could then find. So those two limits, the two boundaries that we were calling till now, are actually called limits. So the first limit is as x equals 1, the second limit is x equals 2, sorry. So we have to have two limits. So now whenever we write, so firstly, okay, so let us just see the notation first. Okay, so this is how we write the original function. So whenever we used to differentiate this, we used to use the notation dy by dx, right? So that was the notation for a derivative when we were finding the derivative. Now what is the notation to write the integral? So when we integrate, what do we use? So we were first, so the process of integration starts by finding the area of one thin rectangle, right? So what is that? So this was like our curve, okay, and we had first taken one thin rectangle. So okay, so this is your y-axis, this is x-axis. So the height of this small rectangle is the y value, right? So this height is the y value. So we write y there times the width of this rectangle, which is this small width. Okay, a small change in x. Okay, the width. What is, how do we represent the small change in x? Dx, right? So we multiply this with dx. That is one rectangle. Now we had many such rectangles, right? we had to find all the area of all of them and then integrate them, add them up. So we actually use this symbol for integral, okay, integration. So we add all the small rectangles to get the total area. So this whole notation stands for this whole area. So this, okay, so this y dot dx represents the area of one rectangle. This whole notation represents the area of the whole the area under the area between two limits, okay, under the curve. Okay, so this is how we write the area, and this is given by, so this is usually given by x cube by 3. So what you are saying is this whole is actually given by this formula. So we use this expression here, x cube by 3, to find the area under the curve. So this is just telling we use it, okay, but still this is not very useful for us because we can't actually find the area directly here. We need to put in the limits also. So this is an indefinite. So whenever we write only this much, what you are saying is the area under this curve y dot dx, the area under this curve y, the curve of y, so the area under this is equal to y x cube by 3. And okay, so this is given by this expression, and this is indefinite integral because there are no definite boundaries, okay, there are no definite limits. So this just says this expression can be used to find the area. This does not give us the area, just an indefinite integral, okay. We actually need to put in the limits, so we have to write the limits also, from where to where are we finding the area. So how do we write the limits? So we write the first limit here. So some people tend to write them inside the integral sign. I write it outside. It's your choice, I believe, okay. So we write the lower limit, the limit towards the origin here. So we write the 1 here, we write 1 here. So the lower limit is 1, right, x equals 1, so we write a 1 there, and the upper limit is 2, so we write a 2 there. So those are our two limits, and similarly we can write those two limits here also using square brackets. So let me just remove the edge that I've drawn. Yeah, so we actually write we put square brackets around our expression, the antiderivative expression, okay, and then we can write our limits at these positions. So the lower limit here, lower limit means the limit towards the closer to the origin, okay. So this is our lower limit, the upper limit, and that's how you write it. Now that is a notation you use. Now how do you actually calculate it? So what do you do is, so we had actually, so I hope you remember in the previous video, the area of this curve was actually the change in the y value of the antiderivative curve, right? I said the change in y value, delta y. So how do you find the change? So this is the y value, right? How do I find a change in y? So what do I do is, first I put, so this is, let's say this is my antiderivative curve. I'll use the black color to draw the antiderivative curve. So let's say this is the curve, this is the antiderivative curve, x cube by 3 versus x. So let's say this is the curve, okay, the antiderivative curve, the curve of this. So we have to find change in y, right? And this change in y is actually given by, okay, so how do we find the change in y? So we first find the value at this, the y value at this point, which will be so I put, so because how do I find the y value at this point? So I put in, so this is the y value at 2, okay, x equals 2. So I put in 2 at the x position, okay. So what do I get is, I put in 2 there, so I get 2 cube upon 3. So from 1 to 2 y dot dx equals, so this is my y value at 2. From this I subtract the y value at x equals 1. So I put in 1 there, and that is how I subtract. The rest is simple mathematics, okay. So that is how we use our limits, okay. So yeah, so that is how we calculate our calculate the definite integral. So this is called definite because this has a definite value, okay. So when you solve this, you get a definite value, and that is a definite integral, okay. So one last thing I'll quickly add in here is that, or maybe, okay, I'll add that in the next video, okay. So I'll make a follow-up video after that. I don't want to make this video very long, so I'll end up here, and I hope you understood the difference between an indefinite integral and a definite integral, okay. So I'll continue in the next video. So bye.